So welcome everybody to Tech Talk Live. This is the first Tech Live we've had in a while, and we used to do these fairly often, and I think they were pretty popular, so I'm going to have a go at these, and I think we will do these monthly now. So this is our first, and then we'll do another one coming up the first week of August, and I believe we will be talking about CMIS and OpenCMIS during the next Tech Talk Live. Reminder that we are recording this session, so we will send out a link to the recording after the webinar is over. Also, you can ask questions in the chat box. You can tweet questions using the Alfresco tag. And you can also, if you have a question that you would rather shout rather than type, raise your hand and we can line for a question. Let's see, to remind you that the Dashlet Challenge is underway, and have started this as a contest, which will be running through the end of August, and can submit for cool and useful Dashlets, and you may win an iPad too if your stands up to the test. So we'll be giving a webinar on the community vision and plan. So to join that. And as I mentioned, Tech Talk Live August 3rd on OpenCMIS. And don't forget that in November we will be doing our annual developers conference. We will be announcing cities soon, but for now just realize that the date will be November 2nd and 3rd if you're attending in the Americas, and November 9th and 10th if you're attending the one in Europe. So I think I'll turn to Will. And Will Abson is a senior solution engineer at Alfresco, and he is also someone who's been doing a lot of work around add-ons and extensions to share. He has a Google project called Share Extras, where you can find sample project setups and dashlets and custom themes. And so too, we'll be talking about share customizations with Will. And with that, just turn it over to you, Will.
Thank you. So some of you may be familiar with Share Extras. The project has been around for a little while, and I will introduce this in a second. Jeff said we want this to be fairly interactive, so feel free to ask or submit questions via the WebEx channel or raise your hand or on Twitter as we go along, and we'll stop at various points to try and answer any questions that you have. Share Extras has been around for a little while now. It's been around a year. The core of Share Extras originally started as a few dashlets, a few individual dashlets to showcase how to basically extend Alfresco quickly and easily. It's grown quite a lot since then. So I originally founded the project, but we've since had a number of other contributors come on board, which is great. Some of whom I believe on the line today. So not has it grown in terms of numbers of contributors, but it's also grown in terms of the variety and the number of add-ons that it provides. I mentioned the site is called Share Extras, and it's actually a Google Code project. We will give you the link right at the end. The reasons why Share Extras was started originally. Now, the first reason was to fill some of the gaps that back then existed within the default collection of dashlets. So, for instance, one of the first dashlets that was there was a cloud. So some of you may have seen that. We're actually going to go through some other dash and add-ons today that really add a lot more value. But that was the first one that we had there, and that's an example of one that we put in it because it wasn't something that was there straight away out of the box, but it provided some add-on value using the existing repository data structures and services there. Other add-ons that we did there have demonstrated the mashup capabilities of Alfresco. So, for instance, there's some add-ons that display YouTube videos or Twitter feeds. So that fits in quite well with the social content theme that's in for Alfresco at the moment, whereby you're pulling content in from external systems, whether they're social or whatever. So has a great deal of potential as a mashup, and we wanted to showcase some of that in Share Extras.
Hey, let me have you pause for a second. We've had a question come in from somebody asking if any of your dashlets that are in Share Extras be incorporated into the core product. Do you want to comment on that?
That's a good question, and it's something that engineering are actually currently looking at right now, I believe, as part of the Swift release. So, as always with roadmap type questions, nothing's ever final until it's final, but definitely something that they're looking at the moment. And for that first family of add-ons there, where it's something that has broader ability across different organizations and reuses something that's already in the repository, like tagging. I think those are the sorts of candidates that they're looking at there. So I hope to answer the question. Now, the reason that we looked at putting together a collection of add-ons for Share was not only to provide those add-ons to other people, but also to spread best practice throughout the community and to get people doing this themselves. So one of the key aspects of Share Extras is it does provide a couple of sample projects. There's sort of like a mini SDK that it can take. It with build files, it comes with an Eclipse-based project structure. Really, everything you need, including even some documentation to get going yourself and start producing, produce some fairly rich dashlets of your own. So that's another key motivator here is to get people build these themselves. Share Extras itself is never going to produce all the dashlets that everyone ever needs. So that's really a key thing. Last idea here is to rest the limit of Share. There's an interesting document action that I'm showing later, and that's one area that is actually being improved in also Swift release, because the framework is recognized. It's recognized that it could be improved. So by actually building common extensions, try out these extension points. The idea was to find out where perhaps the limits are and to improve on those for the future. So I mentioned that there's a broad range of add-ons in Share Extras. These types of add-ons that are provided on the site. Start off with custom dashlets. A couple of those today, but by no means all you can do with Share. That's a misconception, and it does actually support a range of other add-ons here that you see listed. So administration console components, we'll look at some of those. Some form configuration, so things like custom models and form configuration to allow you to edit those models can also be included with add-ons for Share. you can produce pages if you like, and wrap them up as an add-on, and also things like themes. We're changing the layout of the pages using CSS. And that can be wrapped up as an add-on. So the add-ons that we're going to show today should show some of that diversity out. Ones that we're looking at, you saw them if you looked at the event page, you'd have seen a list of those, and we'll run through that in a minute. But the key thing with these add-ons that we'll be looking at today, and there's 6 of them in total, is that they were all put together a concrete use case actually within Alfresco. So my role within Alfresco is actually within the team. So one of the things that we provide is add-on services for Alfresco partners specifically. Some of you who might be Alfresco partners on the line, you might be familiar with the team, but we maintain a partner site, which is a central portal to provide things like documentation, slideshows, sales materials, and sample demo environments that obviously in sales environments partners can reuse. So we've got a central site which is built upon Alfresco Share to provide this, and in order to build this, we needed to extend Share to perhaps do a few things that it didn't do out of the box. These add-ons that we'll be looking at today, all add-ons that we've developed, solid business requirements, are now actually available to anyone really as Share extras. Add-ons that we'll be going through, as well as some dashlets. There's full page components, there's admin console components, and we're also overriding certain bits of certain pages. So really we're showcasing a wide range of different add-ons. Look at this stage, are there any questions we've got so far before we dive in?
One person is asking if there's any plan for Alfresco to become an OpenSocial container. And I know that's something that is been talked about for multiple years, at least the number, just in seeing John Newton's talks and things like that. But at the same time, our goal isn't to make Share a full portal. So I don't know. Obviously there's no plan for OpenSocial in Swift, which is the upcoming release. But just wanted to know if you had any thoughts on OpenSocial and
in terms of these add-ons, having developed a number of add-ons myself, I think the benefit that these add-ons of Share, like this, if you're looking at a dashlet, for instance, if you imagine that, that's actually really easy to do. It's lightweight, it's based on and standards, it's RESTful, it's based on JavaScript and FreeMarker. So once it picks up these skills, you can bash these add-ons out really quickly indeed. And so I think in that sort of lightweight, scriptable, RESTful environment, like OpenSocial would sit very well. It will obviously give a number of benefits in terms of being able to pull the types of add-ons that aren't perhaps native Alfresco Share add-ons like this. So certainly it would have a lot of benefits, and it would fit in quite well, I'm sure, with the existing architecture there that's in terms of Share. As you said, Jeff, I think concern would be with hearing that you are perhaps adding a certain sort of maybe an extra layer there within Share. And one of the key things for Alfresco is the performance there. So obviously that would be something engineering would have to weigh up for the advantages and disadvantages of having that in. You know, the demand that they in the customer base and across the city to see that implemented. So I can't answer the question directly because I myself, you know, I'm not in charge of the product roadmap, but we have a central location where that roadmap is published, which I believe has been updated recently, certainly with information. So that would be the place to look. And you know, if you have particular requirements around OpenSocial or a particular use case where you can imagine that being really useful, we'd love to hear that.
Yeah. Well, so if there are people on the call who are interested in OpenSocial and having Alfresco be an OpenSocial container, please you know, speak up and get that feedback in through myself or Will or you know whoever you have that you speak with freaking Alfresco. So let's move on. This is good. Let's move on. Will.
It's just worth saying as well, just to add on to that, in terms of feedback, is that their extra site is there. If anyone does have feedback specifically on any of the add-ons that we do go through, the site is shared extras on Google Code, and you can submit issues there or add page comments on any of the wiki pages there. So you know, again, any feedback is great. I can share my desktop here. So I've got my web browser in here. In Alfresco share interface here. It's specifically a sample site, and this is a site that we provided on the cloud trial, which provides sample content from a fictitious company called Green Energy. There's actually another project that I'm also involved in called Dare Import Export, and that's a selection of Python scripts which you can actually use to install the sample content you hold. So what I started off with here today is just a clean Alfresco installation, and I've added some sample content, some sample users, as well as the add-ons that we're going to be looking through today. So if you are building up those, you know, you might want to bear that in mind as another tool. Going back to the dashboard, we've got this specific site here. Now, the document library, sample content, actually some content already present there. Now, the folder structure that's there, and we dropped in a video file, which is actually an MPEG-4 file. There's something that we wanted to show on the partner side. We actually show a number of videos with partners via that site. And initially when we did that, people had to click the video to download it. You'd have to hope they had the right software on their computer, particularly with multi-platform issues, as we're a company which has a user base, you know, pretty much across all the main 3 operating systems. That was a huge challenge. So we wanted to actually customize Share so it could natively go and play these videos that we were sharing. These are pretty short videos. They're about 5-10 minutes, so they're not huge. They may be about 10 megabytes in size. If I just change the detail view here, yeah, this one here is 5 bytes. So you know, they're not huge. They're easily viewable within a Flutter and a web browser. That's what we integrated to share here. So this is a media previews add-on for Share. So it does a couple of things. So it provides you with a thumbnail of the video there, and that's actually generated on the server, very similar to how the existing document thumbnails are generated. If you've got a Word document open off FFmpeg, however, in this instance. So that's a static thumbnail. Second you get is when you click into the video there, you get a splash screen, a video hosting Alfresco share showing a particular feature, in this case workflow, within there. I should be able to play this video. Click on the icon in the web application there. We've overridden the specific page component here on the left-hand side, which provides the previews, and we added support there for certain types of video file, audio files as well. You actually get a slightly different player there, which allows you to play audio files if you're those within your. So either audio or video files you can play. This is an MPEG file, as I mentioned, and we like those because they're quite small. But if you have other types of video files, you can also add those to Alfresco Share. And if it needs to, in order to be playable by this Flash player, Alfresco, again using FFmpeg, will actually transcode them on the server to provide an MPEG-4 or an FLV rendition of that. It actually looks at the version of Flash that you've installed there to determine which of those formats you use. So newer versions of Flash will handle MP4 content fine. For versions we can actually generate FLV content. That's showing the media previews. We also wanted to do here is we wanted to be able to show those previews on the dashboard itself, as well as overriding the page component there in the document library. We actually added a video preview dashboard. Allows you to select a specific video of your choice. The standard file browser that comes with the share there. So this isn't custom code. This is just reusing some of the capabilities that exist there already. And all I need to do is select that video. Video is displayed there on the dashboard, so you can play it there. If it's a typical video like that, you could also put it in the main container there, but you can also play it in full screen mode. So you can play that video directly from the dashboard, or you can also click through on the time go into the main view there. So that's how we're sharing our videos within the partner team with our various partners spread across the world. So any questions on that specifically?
When you dashboard and you hit the configure and it launched a pop-up, is that reusing one of the Alfresco components to show that form? And is that the form service or behind it, or how can you talk about that?
Okay, yeah, I could actually dive into the source code behind it and actually show that. So the Eclipse project here, several here, but this is the media view. This is based on the standard structure that I mentioned, and that ShareXtras provides sample projects, which are called sample dashboards, and I can download that from the ShareXtras site. All I do when I create a new project is I just create a copy of that within my environment. They all have the same structure, and if I go into the config directory into the WebScripts area, you can actually see there's a couple of different web scripts there. One is providing the preview, and that's the overridden preview component that we. And they've also got within here, you've got a dashlet web script here. So that's the main web script that provides that view. There's also when you click configure, it actually uses a second web script to open that panel there which allows you to define the configuration. So that's, again, a very basic web script, because all it really contains is that dialog definition. And that is actually within modules here by convention. It's this config video. And this browse video, that's actually from a previous version. That's not used anymore. So there's actually two web scripts that make up this dashlet. There's the configuration dialog, and the other is the dashlet itself. And there's some client-side code, and that's also in the project. It's within source web dashlet here, and this implements a JavaScript widget that controls that entire dashlet, is responsible for rendering it on screen, and when I click the configure button, it has a method here called onConfigVideoClick, which is responsible for opening up that dashlet via the web scripts, that configuration dialog via the web scripts there. So there's a few things here that are working together, but the key thing is they're glued together by this client-side code. So that keeps it all together there within a single dashlet. Just one that view, it might also be worth showing the build script that's here. And this script provides a number of targets. It's just a generic build script that you can reuse yourself. And the most useful target that it provides, which I've used myself here, is the ability to package up a jar file containing all of these individual files, plus the client-side code. So you install that on your server. If I go into my Alfresco installation here, show you my Tomcat shared lib directory, you've just got a single jar file for each of those add-ons there. So that's really useful if you're giving these things to install to an administrator or something like that. You can just give them that single jar file. Hopefully that answers the question.
We have a few questions come in. So one question is, if you go back over to your project structure, that question about what that config directory is that we're looking at here and how it relates to the Alfresco war and the share war.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a mapping going on here. As I guess you're implying there. So the contents of this config directory, when the add-on gets packaged up, will be added into the class path within that jar file. So basically within the jar, that just means that there'll be a root folder called Alfresco, and then underneath there you'll have these sub pages here, which contain the web scripts files. So all these web scripts files are get deployed on the class path there. And if I actually open up this media preview jar by using 7-zip, you should see that, there it is. It's got the Alfresco directory. It's got and web extension there, which are the two subdirectories. So that's the mapping there.
Yeah. So I think one thing to point out is that your deployment approach is meant for simplified deployments where you can just take that one jar and put it in the Alfresco war lib as well as the share war lib, and works in both places. But that underneath Alfresco, that extension directory is typically what we see in the Alfresco war, whereas the web extension is typically what we see in the share war. For convenience sake, you're putting it in a single jar and putting it in both places, or in the shared lib if you're running in the same Tomcat.
Yeah. So that jar file for most of the add-ons would need to be visible to both Alfresco and share. That's a really good point. So if you are running those on different Tomcat instances or even different servers, perhaps you just add the jar file to each of those different tiers separately. No, that's fine because share only looks for certain configuration files, and the Alfresco repository only looks for other configuration files, they normally won't upset each other. So they can share those extensions. There is also a mechanism in the build script to copy files directly over into, if you've got a Tomcat instance you're using for testing, you can actually copy those files directly into the Alfresco and web apps. And what that means is for testing, you then just need to reload your list of web scripts, which there's also a task for within the script, in order to redeploy your changes. You don't need to redeploy the whole web application or restart your Tomcat if you're making a few changes to the web script there. So in that case, you can actually deploy, even if you're using two different Tomcat instances there, you can still use the build script to push out those files to both those Tomcat instances locally. As both those Tomcat instances are on your local system, you can copy over the jar file to both, or you can copy over the files into the web application directly, just for testing, and do that all use build scripts.
Awesome. Also, a two-parter from Steve. One is a compliment. He's telling you thank you for your awesome work on Share Extras, and I think that reflects the gratitude of the entire community, so I just wanted to mention that. And then a question about the roadmap for Swift shows video preview capability using a different player technology than what this particular dashlet is using, which you're showing. And he's wondering if this dashlet will continue to work with Swift, or what the plan is there.
That's a good question. So the current focus of ShareX is to provide add-ons for 3.3 and 3.4, because obviously that's the main current install base. There's also a few technical enhancements that were made in version 3.3, which mean, for instance, that it is possible to wrap up all these different files into a single jar. So that's the reason why 3.3 and 3.4 being target bases. The projects within Share Extras at the moment is looking at how to adapt some of these dashlets for Swift. I've done some initial work on that, and the dashlets that I've tested generally seem to work. Obviously, though, changes have been made, for instance, to the preview component. They're going to require some work to make sure that the dashlet works still with the works version that's present in Share. So it may be that actually it's possible to reuse that player. Interestingly, I think the two implementations have some differences between them, and so you might still want to use this one, even if you do like the player. An option I'm looking at is whether it's possible to reuse this player that's used here, to reuse the player from Swift. Visually is a lot nicer, but also to still support the thumbnail previews that the add-on supports, but current Swift doesn't. So, yeah, where there's innovation going on in Share Extras and Alfresco, it's great if they can come together. But that is actually one example where a little bit of work is going to be needed on the Share Extras side to make sure that people are getting the best of both when you deploy this. But the quick answer is that most of them generally work from the testing that I've done. Okay,
great. Another question coming in. People are asking how to sort of climb the learning curve. Like, what are there resources, websites, documentation that people can use to get developing their own Share extensions? What thoughts on that?
It's quite hot at the moment. Now, there is documentation spread around the place. The docs that I always have open myself are things like the JavaScript API page on the Alfresco wiki, the same for the template guide, also the Spring Surf help pages contain surf.org.
Yeah, that in the form service is another one that I look at frequently.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, isn't any documentation in terms of API documentation on the client side code. No, I've actually got some HTML docs that are generated with JS doc parsers, and I actually use those myself, because that's the third piece there. You know, we've got the report docs, the web docs. A lot of these, a lot of add-ons actually use a lot of the client-side utility classes that are provided in Alfresco.js. That's the main client-side libraries file within there. So things like the file picker that we saw as well, they're also defined in other library files, module files, in fact, within the share client-side code. So I also have myself that HTML API doc that goes that. And if there's interest for other people to have that, then potentially I could look at sharing that too. So let me.
I'll just answer for everybody on that one. That would be cool, because at least share the parser and the commands that you use to generate the docs, and we could do it ourselves either way. But
yeah,
you know, I spend a lot of time looking at the UE API, and then the problem is, like you've mentioned, a lot of the UE, the YUI stuff is wrapped by Alfresco utility classes, but I don't have a good knowledge or understanding of what an exhaustive list of all of those Alfresco utility classes. So if docs on Alfresco.js would give me that list, and that would save me some time in Firebug and you know, just draw code basically.
Yeah, I mean, it saves me time at data, so if that helps, you know, I'm sure you could share that. I should say I know the engineering team are looking on to provide a solution, so to have all of the client-side code within shared documented, for instance, which, you know, I think is really where they want to be. We'll push this stuff out themselves. So, you know, I expect there will be an official release of this client-side doc endpoint, but, you know, in time, just for Alfresco.js, which is the main one, you know, I managed to get this to work for me. I want people to think it's a substitute for, you know, what engineering will be providing at some point soon.
Right. All right. This is great.
Okay. Say dashboard. Within one dash, which is the video dash list. I'm going to take that away a second and to show the second one here, which also is surfaced as ice here. Now, before I do that, I need to add the date list components to this site here. And to do that is so I can add a poll to the site. So a color initially for these polls. This is a sample model, a sample data list model specifically. Allows me to define poll objects within the system. I've the container first, and then within that container I can put as many polls as I like. Jeff, correct me if that's not proper American English. My poll options in here, separated by commas. I can select specific dates that I want this poll to be valid to and from if I want to. I can select whether the poll is enabled or disabled. That now, that's in the data list. If I go back to the dashboard now, I'm going to customize the dashboard, add poll dashlet, exactly where I had the video. And straight away that appears. Because I actually set up the poll, I can see the results if I want to, but most people will just see the form there. In fact, I think all site managers can see those results there, but anyone else just gets the form. Use in this by clicking the button. These are actually simple UE controls. So as Jeff mentioned, you can use any of the UE standard classes utilities within Share. That just makes the interface a lot richer and makes it blend into Share a lot better. So these are radio buttons, for instance, and you've got a submit button here, and these are all standard UE controls that I'm using here. If I submit, that submits it.
So it seems like in the past, when I've wanted to hide or show something based on a person's role or group membership, it had to write that web script myself. Like there wasn't a quick and easy way to determine group and role membership. Is that changed lately, or how are you hiding that link based on site manager?
Okay, so actually, I'm doing that using a repository web script. When the poll gets loaded, and the request over to the repository, and the repository actually does the looking at that level and checks whether the user is a member of that site. So I think it sends the site ID over. It obviously has your identity because you're already logged in to Alfresco, and if you permission, it'll tell you that. If you can't access the poll, you'll get an error there. And so it does respect permissions in that respect. But the one doing that is by having that custom repository script there to surface the poll, which is able to do that custom permission checking. That's something that the previous dashlet didn't have. The previous dashlet just had a web script defining the main dashlet and a second web script, all within Share, providing the configuration dialog. Now it also has those two web scripts, but it also has some repository web scripts. One provides this drop down here. Allows you to vote. After you've voted, it also does that. And then the last web script, which is the crucial one here, allows you to get information on a single poll. So they all use JSON behind the scenes, and again, that's consistent with the general Share way of working. Is all the repository web scripts would generally be returning and allowing you to post JSON data. So in the case of the voting, that actually posts a JSON body to that web script containing the ID of the poll and the view that you've selected, so it can post that to the repository.
Are you modeling that on the back end? Are those child objects of the data list?
Exactly. So they're child objects, and the name of those child objects is actually your username. So people can only ever vote once, because obviously you can only ever have a unique child name on each child there. So that. This example is providing a few more things than the previous one does. I thought the structure is a little more complex there. So there's some custom model in Alfresco extension, some custom UI messages there as well, and they provide the labels that are used within the data lists area. They provide some custom UI labels there. Then you've got the web scripts on the web tier, so the dashless, as I mentioned in the config dialog. And like web scripts, you've got the repository web scripts. Credit goes to Jeff for this additional script here, and the template activities, which actually renders an activity within this here on the page. Let's see if I can get this to go up. There we go. So in the site activities dashless, you see that Paul, which is me, voted in the poll, what is your favourite colour? And that got a link through to the dashboard where the poll is located. And so that's one thing that actually wasn't on the slide ahead of poll extensions, but add-ons can also provide custom activity feed entries. Doing things where people are interacting and contributing to it. That's something as an add-on developer you can consider.
So somebody's asking, are all of your web scripts JavaScript based, or do you have any Java-backed web scripts? And can you comment on whether that was a conscious decision to go with JavaScript?
It is JavaScript, and it was a conscious decision, yeah, because I think one thing personally for me, having worked, I've worked with web technologies, and I've worked with Java as well, and has its places when you're developing UI components like this. Often you're developing them quite quickly. JavaScript, you're a real lead there, I found, developing these, and so that's a deliberate decision to make them quick to develop, and also to make them easy in terms of technologies involved for other people to pick up. So, really one strengths of Share is that if you've got people who understand web development, if they've worked on client-side projects before, they can very easily move over to write web script on back-end projects using things like Share and Alfresco, and the power of that is just amazing. So yeah, it was a deliberate decision to take advantage of some of the scripting technologies that are in there. There's one exception actually, which I just thought of, which is the Node browser admin console component that also on Share Extras, and I'm in the process of porting that over to Java at the moment. And that's simply because the Java APIs became much lower level than the JavaScript APIs on the repository side, provide a lot more control in terms of what you're able to surface there. Yeah, that's pretty much the only one. All of the doublets and all of the add-ons, in the list for today are purely JavaScript.
Cool.
Okay. There's a couple more on the list here to show actually a couple. I'll show there's an admin console component that I've got here. That's one we haven't looked. This is 3.4 I've got here. 3.4 allows you to actually configure the menus here if you want to. So one that I haven't done is provide this admin console component on the menu here, but with some configuration, I'm actually able to do that as well. But out of the box, when you install this admin console component, I need to click through to another component. And then you'll see the custom one there on the left side, you to create users within the Alfresco repository. So we have a lot of we have partners and actually some other third-party users who log onto the Alfresco partner site, and we need to create a few of these in an automated fashion, and taking structured data from another system, in this case CSV data. So this was an add-on that we to do this. Initially, it was just a repository web script, and it's quite a nice example in the sense that it shows how you can take an initial repository web script and extend that to first of all support JSON data, and then you could develop a web tier component to surface some UI for that, and still reuse the same repository tier web script in the background to actually do the heavy lifting there. So that's exactly how it started, and we've developed that before we threw it out to the world. We thought it was a good idea to put some share UI around it. So really it does what it says on the tin. It creates a number of users. I can type in simple CSV data here. First name, last name, username, first name, last name, email, and the username and password will be auto-generated, but I can specify those as 4th and 5th parameters if I need to. I can also send an email notification, but I turn that off because I'm sure who that will get. It creates that user, you get a notification. There's quite a lot of intelligence here behind the scenes within that web script, and that's fully documented on the Share Extras wiki page for this component. So that allows you to control things like the policy that's used to generate usernames and passwords, logging, the parameters for sending email notifications. So that's all pretty flexible there. Just worth mentioning, you can also specify JSON data if you want, and if you're not quite sure of the format that's needed, help components there that spits out some information on that. So see that there. So this is how we create users. The other thing that I wanted to show, you forget those passwords. So we've also modified the share login screen. So log. So your address in. Now, it utilizes a repository web script. It's pre-programmed in its configuration to run as the admin user. And that repository web script then does the job of resetting your password and to a random value and emailing that on you. So I'm not going for that to come through me. This is the email that I got earlier when I set this up here. So it's an email direct through to your email address there, and these parameters are changeable if required. So by default, that's how it works there. So I could now log in those details there. I'll just log back in again as Paul Hampton there. A dashlet I want to show here. So if I just get rid of the size poll one here. The other issue that we had on the partner site was content was getting out of date. We came up with a mechanism ourselves to define some metadata on individual content items. So we defined a property that said how long content was valid for. So that was normally 3 months, but you could actually change that. And we then report this data on what content is out of date is using a custom dashboard. I've clicked back to my user dashboard. There's actually a user dashboard here. And I'm going to drag this expired content dashlet there. That gives you a dashlet here, toolbar here that you saw a figure button in on other pages, but here this is actually a link that points through to a full page component here. So this is more of an advanced add-on because as well as finding the dashlet, it has a repository web script that provides the data itself. Also has an additional share web script at page definition that pulls in this full page view here and integrates alongside your profile within the site. So it uses the same URL convention. It reuses the bar across here that you get when you're looking at someone's profile, but it hooks in that page component there. So if you've got of these items that you're managing, we've got hundreds of content items on the site. You can use that there, and you click straight through to that item to manage it there. So some custom form configuration, like the poll dashlet has, but it's slightly more advanced. It's based on aspects that in the Manage Aspects screen. It's called Validity here. And Validity Aspects defines this validity period, which is 3 months by default. But if I click Edit Metadata, I can actually change that to 6 or 9 or 12. And the idea is that you get a custom document action here as well. I mentioned that earlier. This is the custom document action that I would look at. This allows you to increment the effective to date, which will basically add 3 months to today. So that's 3 months. If it was, it would add 6 months. If you notice, I've also customized the edit screen so that you actually can't edit the effective to and from dates because they're used to control that. We decided that it would only be controllable through this custom action here called update expiration. So I think I'm wrong there. But because I haven't set that up properly, normally that would update that effect from an effective to date there. So you use them in the read-only mode, but you can't change those. Then, as we saw, you can report back on content that has expired for your user or for other users using this dashlet for the paid components. There's just one more add-on. Sorry.
I was going to say it's closing in on the hour here, and I wanted to just it seems like the share extras. We've seen examples of sort of straightforward dashlets. We've seen examples of dashlets with configure buttons with pop-up dialogues. You've shown document actions and some form config, and there is a custom themes also, which we looked at a theme in this session, but I know that's out there. What major pieces of share customizations do you have examples of in share extras? For example, do you have any form filter examples?
There's actually a example of a custom form field within this one that we've just looked at here. So although it doesn't look like it, I click it metadata here, this validity period is actually using a custom form control. And there was a reason why we did that. I think the drop-down didn't support internationalization rings. I think it's the reason why we provided our own there. So that add-on actually provides a custom form renderer there. Is the sort of thing you meant?
Yeah, I was looking more for form filters, but okay. I was just sort of trying to figure out what pieces might be missing from Share Extras if someone were to go do a share customization project. And I think you've got really good coverage. I mean, you just showed a custom form control. So I think we may not have a sort of developer guide, you know, like the sort of A to Z of customized share, but there are a lot of great examples in Share Extras.
Well, actually, one of the things I was looking at with the engineering team not long ago was actually how do people want to customize Share? Are we doing the right thing in terms of providing? Are we doing the right thing in terms of extension points? Was the question really? And really the feedback that we got the current extension points are all very good. One that needed cleaning up was the document actions one, and as I mentioned, there's some work getting in on the engineering side to do that for Project Swift. But I think the things with their extras is size produced isn't the limit really necessarily. There's a lot more that can be done, and if people find they want to do things that are difficult, or they're not sure how that will be done with the current extension points, then that would be quite interesting to hear. In terms of whether people want to extend this. I think the only example that is on Share Extras in terms of conditions that are using, the proper defined extension points, a thing like the wiki preview capabilities that have been built in there. So they're called wiki-rich content, which allows you to embed data lists, document previews, as well as video files from YouTube, are actually ones that are hosted in the repository using the same video player that we saw on the dashboard there before. So enabling all of that on any wiki page. I think that's a bit of a left field one, but again, it's actually one that we did for the partner initially, and that's grown a little since having been added to Share Extras. So yeah, really interested to hear other ideas if people have them.
Some of the configuration points I've looked for in the past have been like when you do create content right now and Share, your choice is plain content or XML content or HTML or something like that, and there's it's not easy necessarily to add your own custom types there and launch your form. You can do it, but it takes work than it ought to. But I think that's something that specific mention point is being addressed in Swift, but it's things like that I know the engineering team has been looking to improve in Swift. Speaking of, somebody has asked if it's possible to have a different theme for each site instance, and currently in 3.3 and 3.4 that's not possible, but I think I saw that on the Swift roadmap.
Yeah, it's then the latest builds as well.
Cool. Yeah, in the community in head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, person that question, you can go take a look at this code in head, and you should see the site-specific theme functionality. The samples. Another question is about getting the samples that we've shown in this call. They're all available on the Google Code site that we run, and if you go to Google Code, and you can see the URL right now in his URL window, or if you just search for Alfresco Extras in Google Code, you will find that project, and you have all the source code that you check out and play with, and I'll bet if you had some improvements or enhancements that you would take those and incorporate them. Is that right? For him to
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, what I'd say is if you're interested in filing bugs or improvements, or even potentially, you've got your own ideas for new projects. Document those in the issues section. Either myself or one of the other contributors on Share Extras will take a look at them. There are lots of wiki pages here as well. You can add comments at the bottom of the wiki pages, but I think the section definitely allows you to put a lot more in there. So I would use the issues section if you're there. I just wanted to say on the home page here, I think on the question of what types of add-ons are there, this does actually break it down quite well. I know a lot to take in when you're running through them on screen, but this does break them down by the type of add-on. So, form extensions, and perhaps there's also another project here, for instance, that Peter Lofgren has contributed to add the CA editor into Alfresco to enable you to edit content using that editor instead of TinyMCE. So yeah, that's the homepage is where everything's listed, and it is by functional area. So that should give a good summary overview. That we didn't really get to here, just lack of time, was the Google Analytics one. But actually, that's a good thing, because there's not really any UI around that. The only UI that there is actually a custom model that's on the site objects, the site folder, which I'll show you. But you can also check that out yourself and have a look at the projects page, Share Extras, if you're interested in tracking people's usage here internally. And you use Google Analytics, then you can plug that into allow that, and that's on a per site basis. So you can also enable global tracking if you configure that component.
This is Will, and I thank you again for making this project available to everybody. I think it's got a lot of samples that are useful. Even just beyond samples, it's got dashlets that you can use in your implementations today. I do to mention again that we have a contest going on. If got you inspired and you've got some great ideas around dashlets, you've seen some examples that Will has done now, put their own skills to the test and whip something up that's really cool. You can submit that and make your code available on Google Code or whatever code hosting site you prefer, and you could win an iPad. So please check out the challenge page on Alfresco.com site for more information. So I appreciate everyone's time today, and it looks like we've all the questions that have come through. If you do have questions that didn't get answered, please reach out to myself or Will, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully in tomorrow's Community Vision and Plan webinar, and in August for the Open Seamless discussion with Florian Mueller. All right, everybody.